Hello, this is Dan Richardson at the Chapel of the North Hills, and I'd like us to consider today for a few minutes the idea of our prayer being blocked somehow. We have all had that experience feeling like our prayer may not be heard, and we're trying to wonder what makes that happen. We wonder if we're doing it wrong. Maybe I'm not praying right. Maybe prayers don't work. Maybe my prayer is not working or something like that. And so we wonder what's going on, and we look to the Bible for some answers. We realize the Bible does give us some guidance as to why we may experience this phenomenon time to time. So here's some answers. Number one, our prayer can be blocked by our own sin, by the sin in our life. Lamentations 3:44, the prophet is describing the sin of the nation. And the nation of Judah had piled up so many sins that God was judging the nation and allowing it to be destroyed by Babylon. And at that point, God covered the nation with a cloud so that the prayers could not get through because of the stockpile of sins. And Psalm 66:18 says that when we harbor sin in our heart, God is not going to listen. So if that's our first answer, if you feel like your prayer is being blocked, that it's not getting through, stop and wonder, is there some sin in my life that is causing this blockage on my end? Another way, very similarly, we can think that our prayer is being blocked and it's because of idolatry. Okay, we look into the book of Jeremiah. We realize that Jeremiah had been prophesying about the destruction of the nation because of their sin. His messages went unheeded, and God was anticipating that the people would cry out, but he told them, I'm not going to listen. He chided the nation, saying that the other gods that they had been worshiping would not listen either. I'm not going to listen, and those false gods that you're pretending to worship, those are not going to listen either. The judgment was already determined, so God even said to Jeremiah, don't pray for them. Sometimes our prayer can also be blocked by our own evil desires. This is a New Testament idea. In James 4, verse 3, it says that we can pray and we may not get a satisfactory response because of the motive that we're praying for, that we're praying with. Two such of these evil motives are described by Jesus. In Matthew 6, he tells us of people that only want to make a show of their religion. They're praying and they're saying lots of words just so they can be heard saying lots of words. Well, that's a bad motive. There's another story that Jesus told, a parable about a Pharisee praying and a publican praying, and the Pharisee was praying thinking very, very highly of himself. That's another bad motive. And so our own evil desires can also block our prayers. Our prayers can actually be blocked not just by our motives, but also by our doubt. James tells us in the first chapter that when a praying person, is riddled with doubt, that person should not expect his prayer to get answered, shouldn't expect to be heard at all, because we don't believe as we pray. Our prayers can also be blocked when we mistreat our wives. 1 Peter tells us this. 1 Peter in 3:7 says that men must live with their wives in an understanding manner. So family relationships, personal relationships, family relationships especially, husband to wife, they can cause a man not to be able to present an offering or a prayer to God. There's another one. Our prayer can also, this is the sixth one here, our prayer can be blocked by spiritual forces. We have a story in Daniel, the 10th chapter, where the prayer was actually kind of delayed because of the spiritual forces, the war that's going on beyond our physical world that we're not privy to, things that we can't see. Now actually, demonic forces cannot block a prayer, but their interference may cause some delay. This delay, of course, is under the ultimate control of God. And lastly, the seventh thing that I want to bring up is we may be thinking that our prayer is blocked when actually it's not blocked at all. We may think that our prayer is not being heard, but it really is being heard. The problem is that we don't recognize the answer, or we don't want to accept the answer. And we always need to remember that no is also an answer. So keep praying, be persistent, devote yourselves to prayer. And if it's blocked, look to the reason why and keep praying, pray it through, get your heart right with God, and then God's prayer, your prayers will go straight through.